How are you doing?
I'm good.
Shelby, thank you so much for doing this interview. You have a different perspective from kind of what we've seen with other people, don't you? You haven't really been scammed out of money, but you're dealing with scammers and you dealt with numerous scammers.
Yes.
How are you meeting all these scammers?
On Plenty of Fish.
What led you to start going on Plenty of Fish, and then what's been your experience so far meeting people?
About 4 years ago, I met someone on Plenty of Fish, and we had a relationship, and it just didn't work out.
Now that you've talked to a few scammers, what's like their MO? What are these typical signs that you're seeing with them?
Pretty quickly, they tell you that they have feelings for you, and they love you, and they compliment you. The one guy even sent me roses.
We've actually seen that a lot lately, especially over the last year, where they're actually sending gifts now. They'll send cheap flowers. They'll send a cheap ring from Amazon to have people put their guard down. Knowing what you know and kind of going through this, could you understand how people fall for these scams? I mean, emotionally, what are you going through emotionally as you're talking to these people? Knowing that, hey, this is probably a scam, but now you talk to them and they're sending you flowers and roses. Emotionally, what's happening?
Well, the first one I didn't actually realize that he was a scam until I took his pictures and I put it through a photo identification, and he came back as a soldier who had died, and the soldier died like 7 years ago.
Right.
So I sent him a copy of all that I found, and he still swore that it was him, that someone stole his identity, and I just needed to trust him. And then he wanted me to develop a relationship with his daughter, who supposedly was in a boarding school in Canada because he was in Syria fighting the war. He wanted me to get her a cell phone. And he didn't come out straight and ask me for money, but he would ask for things for her. The person that he was betraying was somebody who was honorable, and I just found that disgusting.
Now it brings us to the next scammer. What happened next?
When I met Chris, I was in a really vulnerable place. We continued talking, and then about a month in, I was looking at relocating to Colorado. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, instead of you going by yourself, why don't we get a house together? He sent me a copy of his bank balance, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it showed he had millions of dollars. Right. And it showed he was, up to $9 million. I trusted him. I still had some doubt, though. I actually talked about it and journaled it. It was August, and at the end of September, I started seriously looking for houses. Well, then he started asking for my bank account information. He wanted to help me because I own my business, and because of COVID, I lost it.
A lot of people think, oh, well, how could these people fall for this? These scammers will spend all day long texting you 4 or 5 hours every single day.
Exactly.
People don't understand that, if you make $10,000 in Africa, Nigeria, right? Which is like majority of these people are located, not all. Yes. That's a lot of money. That's a massive amount of money to these people. So $250 could last them a whole month, And so, these people, this is like a job. They treat this as a job.
Yes.
And in fact, they even call people like you their client, that they're working on. And that's how they treat this.
Right. And you talk about things that you would talk about with your significant other. They're good. They're really good at making you feel good about yourself. The compliments, I want to be with you forever, that I'm going to fill that void that's in your life. And I think they target people who are not as fortunate, people who do have money issues.
Still dating online right now, or trying to meet people online, or?
I took my ads down, but I have met someone that I met online that I'm talking to.
Very cool. And you kind of have an interesting story. You have kind of a nightmare situation that you're dealing with now. Tell us about that, how it started, and where things are right now.
Well, it was with Chris.
What information did you end up giving him?
I mistakenly sent him a copy of my letterhead, my business letterhead.
What did that have on it?
It had my address, my phone number, and I had not given him my address up until that point.
Did that have your email address too?
Yeah, he already had my email. Well, then he's like, well, I have your social security number. And I was like, no, you don't. And he's like, yes, I do. And I'm like, how'd you get it? And he's like, don't worry about it. I got your social.
Using what?
He wouldn't tell me the website that he used, but he had it. He sent it to me.
Everybody's part of data breaches, right? And there's information every year that gets leaked through data breaches. So, sometimes it's, Target and your social security number gets leaked. Sometimes it's your passwords that get leaked. So even by just having somebody's email address, you can go, and there's sites out right now that are legal, and you can go and you can pay for data as part of a data breach, and you can see what data was breached and actually get access to that.
Yeah.
So you can find out the passwords that were breached. So every time there's a data breach and people notify you, most people are like, oh, okay, well, I'll deal with it later, or because it happens so often. Well, people don't always change their passwords, or sometimes their social security number gets leaked. And so that's how we've seen some of these scammers get access to this information. So you had gotten like fake documents. Can you kind of run through some of those fake documents and what made you suspicious from some of those? I know there was like a fake ID and some other things.
He sent me a copy of his driver's license. He sent me, items from his bank account showing me how much money he had. The big one was we were arguing, and I told him, I was like, you keep telling me you have all this money. And he's like, you know what? Here, sign in here into this bank account and you can see my money. And so I got his username and his password. I put it into the website. It was Ally.
So now that you've kind of been through all this, you've talked to these scammers, what are some things that you would have done differently?
Well, I've met someone in the last few days, and I'm talking to him. And one of the first things that both of us did was we're going to talk on the phone. We're not going to just text each other, so that you can hear each other.
What's in store for you? What's the future hold for Shelby Brown?
Right now, my future includes starting a new business. I've started a new business. I'm trying to launch it off the ground. So far, everything that I've been making has gotten great reviews. So hopefully that'll work really well for me. Like I said, I've met someone that I'm talking to. It's only been a few days, but we talk every night on the phone, and I'm hopeful that he's not a scammer. I'm hoping he does live in Montana. I have hope that I will be able to find someone to share my life with and have a life with them. I don't recommend Plenty of Fish to find a person. So I'm hopeful that the future will have, a successful business. Hopefully, fingers crossed, and a successful relationship with somebody who's real. Real flesh and blood person, not an online person.
Very cool. Well, Shelby, we wish you the absolute best. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I think this was really great. This is educational to look at things from the perspective of somebody who's been through it and now has seen the signs and understands what makes somebody vulnerable. And hopefully people watching this can get a lot out of it and say, you know what, I'm going through that right now. Or, you know what, that was a sign, that clicked for me. And so hopefully, people are going to take the things that you've gone through and be able to utilize those to keep them safer online. All right, Shelby, you have a great New Year's, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Are you unsure if the person you're talking to online is real or fake? Maybe you've been trying to get a family member or friend to come to terms, and you have a story that you'd like to share about a romance scam. If this is you, email us at sharemystory@socialcatfish.com. By allowing our YouTube audience to hear about your experiences, you can educate them on what you went through and the signs you witnessed. Education is the best way to prevent these scams. Your story could be the reason thousands of scams are prevented.